All right, so right here we got my guy Niner by Nature 88, and he says y'all sleeping on the McLeod, and that kind of leads me to my next conversation or topic with rookie Danny Gray, right? So if you look at the 49ers receiver room right now, you have obviously Debo Samuel, you have Brandon Ayuk, you have Jawan Jennings, who he's pretty much, I mean, is he locked in at that wide receiver three spot? And then they signed Ray McLeod, where they gave him like 2.7 million guaranteed. So he's going to be on the roster and he's going to be contributing. And I remember Kyle Shanahan saying, we signed Ray McLeod because we liked what he did as a receiver. And then they're like, oh, by the way, he's also a return man. So a lot of people, I think, when they saw this signing, it's like, oh, 49ers got the return guy. Kyle Shanahan's thinking, no, I got a receiver on the field. And then they go out and they draft Danny Gray. So there's a potential there where, okay, maybe those are the five guys that suit up, and we'll see who else kind of makes it from there. I might have my money on Keyshawn Johnson. But your five receivers right there, Debo, Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, McLeod, and Danny Gray. So with Danny Gray maybe potentially being that fifth guy, what do you expect out of him, or what do you want to see just in training camp, right? And from the regular season, we'll get there when we get there, but at least training camp, there are some things I want to see from Danny Gray, and I wasn't as high on him. And you know me, like I give my analysis where guys are, and you will never hear me say, never, this is all a player will ever be, right? Mm-hmm. But watching him, there were definitely clear areas where I felt like, you know what, I think Danny Gray can improve on these things. And if he does, then we're talking about a very dangerous receiver, but I don't think he's quite where a lot of 49er fans think he is right now, and that's why he was like the last pick in the third round. I thought, for a guy that runs a 4.3, I didn't think he consistently threatened cornerbacks with the threat of his speed.
I agree.
And what I mean by that is and again, some of this that I see, I look at how the cornerback guards him, and I could feel that, right? You know, I played the position for a long time, and I'm looking, and I'm like, man, they're
not bailing.
They're not bailing at all, and they're not bailing on their technique at all. So a lot of things with cornerbacks, right? You're at the line of scrimmage, and you know you're playing press against a receiver, and when they go off the line, you'll see a lot of guys when it's like, man, this guy runs 4.3, I got to get up out of there. So you kind of open up and you start to build on your technique a little bit to overcompensate playing against somebody that has a lot of speed. Well, you didn't quite see that. So that right there was them telling me, well, he doesn't play to whatever speed everybody thinks he has. And then when you're watching how they're getting in phase with him, reading them down, I saw some guys playing what I call dick to hip, and that basically means like lower hip. So that eliminates more comebacks, curls, slants, and that makes it a little bit more harder to really beat if you are a receiver. And guys, good corners, right? And when I say good corners, I mean he's not playing in the SEC, so we're just saying cornerbacks with a lot of confidence that he's playing against like, you know, Houston and some of those guys. But they weren't in any type of rush to get out of there, and it was very clear where he's kind of, I don't want to use the word one-trick pony, but run after catch is solid. If he can free up, Kyle Shanahan's like, you know what, this is how I plan on using him. Crossing routes against zone, maybe a post route or go route and clear outs. I could see a scenario where he comes in and wins right away, but this is a guy who training camp, I want to see, like, can you use the threat of your speed to get cornerbacks to open up and come back underneath and things like that? What do you see from Danny Gray? What are your expectations from him if he is indeed maybe the fourth or fifth receiver?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think a lot of people talk about game speed and just speed, right? Because you just hear like, oh, he runs this, but do you play that fast, right? And there's guys who run slower that play faster, right? Like there is something to that for sure. And yeah, I did notice a little bit of that as well too. Is you have to be able to develop your route tree. You have to be able to threaten cornerbacks in different ways, right? Like you can't just have that, and then for some, like you said, for somebody as fast, they're not just trying to get back on him or anything like that. Again, he's got to adjust to the game. He's got to adjust to NFL corners who are going to be the best that you're ever going to face. And can you beat press? Can you threaten them in different ways? Can you add that to that arsenal? Also, he's got to clean up the drops. I mean, like he dropped one pass, I believe, in OTAs on the first day, even though he had the best catch of the day. You got to clean up the drops. I mean, that's one thing that for some reason, even Debo Samuel, George Kittle, they kind of struggle with drops a little bit, you know, like I don't know what it is, but like Gray needs to work on that as well too. So what I want to see from him is I want to see consistent performance against top tier guys. Like I want to see you go up against Charvarius Ward. I want to see you go up against Emmanuel Mosley, you know, maybe Jason Verrett if he's cleared. I want to see how you win against those guys. Charvarius Ward has been high in every metric, so it's going to be a very good test for him. But I want to see if he can continue to build and learn the route tree, be better that way. And if you're talking about what I expect from him during the season, and Juwan Jennings, I think it's just going to be situational. I mean, Juwan Jennings, I believe, had this absurd number of, I think it's like 65% of his catches were for either first down or a touchdown or something like that. So essentially, he took over the Kendrick Bourne role of like clutch guy. When you need something, you need it on third down. That's what he is. So I think situationally, you'll see him in the red zone. I don't think you'll see Gray as much in the red zone, and that makes a lot of sense because Juwan Jennings is bigger. But if it's a 3rd and 15, 3rd and 18, you might see Gray on the field because you want to threaten down the field. I don't think that Juwan Jennings can do that. But the same way that it's like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 7, you probably won't see Gray there. You'll probably see Juwan Jennings because of how well he did in that role last year. So it'll be a mix of them, and I think it'll be situational more than anything how you see those guys used.
We got a comment right here from our guy, Official BNA Music 88, and he says, is Gray at least better than Pettis as a rookie? And here's my thing with Dante Pettis. First, let's talk about just kind of his rookie stats. He's a guy that played in 12 games. He had 45 targets, 27 catches, which is solid, almost 500 yards receiving, over 17 yards per reception, and 5 touchdowns. He actually had a pretty good rookie year for a guy who missed 4 games dealing with, I think he got hurt on like a punt return or whatever with his knee. And one thing about Pettis, and I try to tell people this, they didn't get the evaluation of him wrong in the sense of what he was capable of doing. Like when you talk about his releases off the line, really settling verticals, run after catch ability, being able to be a deep threat, like he did all those things well. It's just along the way they kind of realized he likes cats. Which is
he
kinda,
didn't have that dog in him. He didn't have that dog in him.
There's nothing wrong with liking cats, but he was a different kind of cat, right? No pun intended. So I think that was one thing, and especially with Kyle Shanahan, if you don't got that dog in you, you'll find yourself in his doghouse or cat house. This
is all working for me. No, this is all working for me, Crock.
Yeah. So, and I think that's kind of been his issue and really being able to latch on in the NFL. Just that other thing that you kind of need. So as far as Danny Gray, I think Dante Pettis is or was the better prospect coming out of college.
More polished receiver, I would say that.
More polished, more polished for sure. And that's not to say that Danny Gray can't be better. That's not to say Gray can't be better as a rookie. That's just coming out, we're talking about as rookies. Pettis actually had a solid rookie year for somebody who was a little underwhelming with his time with the 49ers. If Danny Gray can give you that, if Danny Gray can give you almost 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, over 17 yards per reception, that's a good year.
Yeah,
that's a good year
absolutely.
for him, especially if you're playing off of guys like, the other receivers on the roster. I almost said Kendrick Bourne, but Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and also George Kittle, who's going to have his opportunities as well. So I am curious to see what Danny Gray does. That's one of the guys who I'm definitely looking forward to seeing in camp, because I just want to see like how has he improved from what I saw in college, which wasn't terrible, but it was clear he needed to learn how to play with a little bit more high-end controlled speed. That's what we call that. And if he can do that, then you are talking about somebody who should have a good camp and then eventually maybe open up for his own little role. So definitely something I want to see right there. Real quick, I appreciate everyone that is tuning in right now. We got over 230 of you in the chat. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you like this show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Morning Show, and I'm joined by my guy, Jason Aponte. This morning, we're talking about all things training camp. And this Wednesday evening, I will have I don't think I told people who my host is for Wednesday talking about training camp. But I'm still going to hold off. I'm going to hold off and not just. But it's a beat writer from the San Francisco 49ers. They will be there on the ground. Everybody says, is Grant Cohn? It's not Grant Cohn. It's someone else, not Mayoko, not Barrows, not Jennifer Lee Chan, not
Lombardi.
Not David Lombardi.